Hello and welcome to another acysecurities market tutorial. My name is Alistair Schultz and I'm going to be a host through today's trading journey. Today's video is all about what it's like working from home, or in this instance, trading from home. And I'm going to try and impart some of the wisdom that I've come across over my extensive career so far. Now, naturally, there are a lot of benefits when it comes to trading from home. You're your own boss, you can work your own hours. Naturally, you don't have anywhere near the same time or money spent on traveling. And of course, you have a few other little benefits, such as you're in your own environment, the fridge isn't too far by, and you can generally wear whatever you like when you want to do it. However, there are a number of challenges that come with it. So today, I'm going to give you my top 7 challenges and what I find to help combat those sort of challenges as it goes through my trading day. Now, the first one is about getting in the zone. It can be hard to get in the zone when it comes to trading, especially when you are doing it from your own home. If you were using or going to a workplace or a trading floor or something like that, you sort of have this mentality where you have a shift between when you've left your house and when you've gotten to work. It gives you a good opportunity to sort of switch on and switch off that brain, whether you're coming or going. So in this instance, it is essential to, when you are trading from home, to have your own office space, a place that you can use to be your office, your zone, and make it a physical barrier for you, if you will. The moment you walk in that room, that is your trading time, that is your work zone. The next sort of stuff is that you want to try and replicate that same environment that you have at work, and that's the same idea. It's all about creating the physical side of things to affect the mental side of things. Additionally, you want to try and remove as many distractions as possible. You don't want to have a TV going with your favorite TV show in the background. You don't want to be having toys or other sort of distractions across your bench that you might not usually have in your office space. So take those into consideration. They are some good little tricks along the way. There are more on this sort of aspect as we get further down. Now, the next one that I have for you is about distractions. Now, when you trade from home, you might have family members there, you might have kids, you might have a variety of pets or whatever it may be. There are likely to be a number of different distractions. It's really important to have boundaries if you are living with others. You need to make sure that they understand that once you're in that room and you're in your working day, that it is not just like when you are home on the weekend or when you are home after work, especially now that the lockdowns are going on. You have a schedule to stick to, you have plans that you need to deal with, and you have trades that you want to take. So make sure that you have a good conversation with them to make sure that that stays in place. The next one is that you have to have a trade plan in place. Not necessarily a structured, I'm going to enter and exit with this criteria because I'm a discretionary trader and that's not how I do. But what I do have is a way that I schedule my day. I have a routine, if you will, about what I'm doing in the morning and when it comes to reviewing charts, what I'm going to do after that, and whether I'm going to be looking for news articles and reading about what's gone on the night before. Then I'm going to have a look for some trades myself, and then I go through this process a couple of different times. My schedule will vary depending on what the conditions are, but I always put in place a plan the day before so that I have a checklist of things that I'm going to tick off that might be relevant for my trading day ahead. Now, the next one is obviously still a part of that routine. It's also still a routine. It's just that it's a routine about when you take breaks, when you sit when you're sitting in the room, and what you're doing during the other side of that. So if you walk in the morning and you're sitting down, you're like, right, my 9 o'clock is my trading time to start from here and I'm going till 6. Well, you need to routine and schedule in some breaks during that time. And you also need to make sure that when you finish, you leave that room and you switch your head off at the end of the day. Now, the next one to look at is about adjusting to time zone. A lot of people who may not have been trading from home before, or who would have been set on set hours in an office in a trade team, may not be used to the switch. And generally, as traders, at least where I am, I'm working on a GMT time zone. Now, regardless of whether I live over the world, I tend to find that if I stick to that GMT time zone, it means I'm having a pretty normal trading day. However, when you start getting the sun coming up or down at the wrong irrespective time of that GMT time zone, it affects your circadian rhythms. So it's really important to make sure you recognize when you were tired, when you were hungry, when you were all the other things, or when you need to get out of the house for a bit, to make sure that you can fit into that time zone as easily as possible. You don't want to be going to bed and finding you can't sleep, especially if you've got trades open, and you certainly don't want to have to be getting up in the middle of the night, although sometimes that's unavoidable. Now, the other ones that you can do is you can use that routine to sort of control it. Naturally, you can pick markets that might be more suitable to fit in with your circadian rhythm so that you are awake during the daylight hours. And you really need to consider and these sort of aspects to look after your own health. It is imperative that you are healthy and safe before the trades are at the end of the day. Now, the next piece of information I can give you is that it actually can be quite isolating. At first, when you first start trading from home, it can be difficult to just get into it and get trading, and you think it's very exciting to begin with. However, as time goes on, you realize that the social element of being able to be on a trading floor and actually bounce ideas off one another, to collaborate, to have interest, to do all the other things, can go out the window. So it's imperative that you do try and find other ways to keep that social side of things and to stop yourself from feeling isolated. Now, one of the ways you can do that is you can incorporate what I call a social break. And that might be that you have maybe 15 to 20 minutes, or you might schedule in at some point in time in the day where you will call someone that you know. Perhaps it's one of your colleagues, perhaps it's another trader, perhaps it's a friend or a family member that you might not have spoken to in a couple of weeks due to the lockdown situation. And schedule that in so that at least you're feeling like you are still connected to the world and not just sort of stuck in your own sort of little bubble. Now, the next part about that you can sort of impact on is to be a part and actively a part of trading groups and to actively seek them out and find ones that work for you. Now, there are trading groups out there that you can be a part of. I used to moderate in a few myself, but the idea is that you can go through and find a couple of different places where you might be able to actually have other people that are like-minded to think about trade ideas together. And of course, usually you will find that a number of them are actually working at the same time as you. And there is usually almost always someone on around the globe 24 hours a day because of their own time zones. But more importantly, it keeps your head in the game, and it also gives you that less feeling of being so isolated when you've got other people around the world joining in for conversations with you. Now, the next part is to get a trading buddy. Now, if you don't want to be a part of those moderator rooms all the time, then perhaps you can just have a Skype channel or a friend who does trade as well, that you can routinely sort of sit and just have little general chit chats and conversations whilst you're going throughout your trading day. Much like you would if you're on a trading floor. You always tend to end up talking to your neighbor a little bit here and there. You have periods where you might be focusing on something, but the option to actually turn around and say to someone's name is around. Use a webcam if you have to. It is something that just helps you bridge that gap of face-to-face interaction, and obviously helps avoid the feelings of isolation. Now, the next one to sort of consider is overtrading or overworking. Now, it can be very hard when you are trading from home for the first time to switch off the difference. Before, when you're on a trading floor, you can quite easily make the difference between I'm at work and I am trading versus I'm at home and this is my time to sort of wind down and relax. When you are at the thing, it makes it very hard, at working at home, it makes it very hard to sort of find that balance. And this is why it is so important to have a physical place where you do your trading, where it is your work mindset that gets activated versus not. Otherwise, you may find yourself constantly working or constantly thinking about charts, and in this instance it can lead to overworking. So you need to use that schedule to sort of set reminders for yourself to take a 15-minute break every now and again so that you can refresh and look at the charts with a clear vision. The other side is turn off notifications so that you don't get sort of distraction from the work side of things. So if you are having to communicate with other people in your daily workday, or perhaps it's one of those trade rooms or it's part of that social side, sometimes you just need to switch off all notifications for a little while so that you can maintain focus on the tasks that you're doing, and you're not ending up finding that your day is getting longer and longer and longer because you keep getting distracted and the task gets drawn out even longer again. Now, the other one is if you get overwhelmed. Now, trading has a large psychological component, and if you haven't been used to that, and especially trading from home where you haven't been able to bounce an idea off someone, the decision making really comes all down to you. So if you are finding yourself getting emotional about situations, whether that be periods of elation because you've had a series of wins, or perhaps self-defeating because you've had a series of losses, you need to make sure you don't continue trading that day. If that happens and you are finding yourself getting highly emotional about your trades, take a break, close your positions, or even hedge them if you have to, and then just leave it for a while and get your head out of the game for a little bit. You need that time to reset your mind so you can look at it with a fresh set of eyes. Now, the next one is about health. You need to be aware of your health. If your health is out of whack, then your trading is going to be out of whack. So take a common lunch break if you can. So if you are trading with others and you have trading colleagues and they're taking a lunch break, take it at the same time so you guys can easily collaborate at the same times when you're sitting at the desks. Obviously, make sure to get outside. I know that might be hard right now, especially if you're in an apartment sort of thing, but do as much as you can to get outside just for about 15-20 minutes to go for a walk if that's at all possible. Now, also put in exercise into your routine. If you have a bit of a routine exercising throughout the day, that will help you sort of get through this a little bit easier. It gets you off your butt and out of the chair and out of the office, and it will get the blood pumping, get you flowing, and when you come back, you'll have even greater looks at trades than you did before, because all of a sudden you've got more blood and oxygen going through your whole body. Now, the next one is to practice some mindfulness techniques. Now, a lot of people do suffer from anxiety in their trading. So if you are practicing some of these anxiety techniques, then go right ahead and use them as a part of your trading day. Perhaps before you start your trading day, or even after you've had your lunch, just take a couple of deep breaths and get on with your day. You might have your own techniques that you use. I have done a video on some of the psychological ways that you can do it, so feel free to sort of check that out. If not, I'm pretty sure I also covered it in a webinar, so that might be worthwhile to have a look as well. Now, the next one is about getting out of the zone, and this is one of the hardest things to do. Once you start working from home, you tend to find that your whole house becomes your trading zone. And unless you make a distinctive barrier that's physical and also mental about your trading area and when you're trading and all that, you tend to find yourself thinking about trading all the time, which doesn't necessarily give you the opportunity to have a break. So some of the ways to get around that is to have sort of the physical boundaries like we've discussed. Obviously, prioritize some of the tasks that you're handling or some of the trades that you're dealing with to try and get those worked out first. So if you have a position that you think is worthwhile putting more effort into, start with that one and then move on to the others as you're going down. Don't try and be so chaotic about it. Now, the other one is also using the Eisenhower matrix, and this is something that I have used quite often in my life. And the idea is that if you're struggling or you feel like you have a lot of different things on your plate, then it might be worthwhile hedging or closing some of the positions and aiming to do one big task a day, 3 medium-sized things a day, and then obviously 5 little things across the day. And this can incorporate not only into your work life, but also into your sort of home social sort of things as well, or perhaps just things around the house. And when you're at home and you're trading from home, they kind of end up overlapping with one another. So you need to make sure that you're keeping one set prioritized to the other, being have your trades organized before you start doing anything else in that home. Now, it has also been things, and there are a lot of people out there and a lot of management sort of side of things where people don't like you working from home because the expectation is that you will be less productive. It's actually the opposite. Studies have shown so far that if remote workers are more likely to overwork, and that's because they can't break that barrier of getting out of the zone. So I hope that's sort of given you guys a little bit of wisdom about all the different things that might be challenging about working from home or trading from home. And perhaps you might be able to find some of the wisdom that I have provided or some of the techniques or ways, or you may even find your own. But at least now you might have a little bit of an idea of some of the challenges you have to look out for, and you'll be able to recognize them much earlier than I ever did when I first started trading from home. But anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and I look forward to the next ones that we do. Now, obviously, don't forget to like and subscribe to this video so you can get more great content from us. And of course, if you have any questions about today's video or any of the other ones that I've done in the past, perhaps you have an alternative technique that you might use to sort of face these challenges, or you've found a challenge that I haven't before, feel free to shoot me an email at talk2al@acy.com, and I'll happily go through it and maybe even talk to you about some of the opportunities, and we may even make a new video about just some of these other techniques that could be used throughout the day. Have a great trading day ahead.